so many questions coming at Pam. Do you think after, a few questions she could respond maybe to some?
I'm gonna keep track of them.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rob Linebarger in response to Brian's question. So Brian, you know the answer because we've communicated on Facebook several times. And Brian also turned us into PDC, alleging that we're violating 501c3 rules when he knows, and I've told him, and he actually one of his cohorts sent a screenshot of my text or my post that says that 501c3 is, the application has been submitted but not yet approved, correct? You know that as a fact, right? Because I've communicated. Okay, but you submitted it anyway. So anyway, hold on. But so the recall petition was initiated by the parent group. The parent group had a discussion on how we were going to move forward with that. During that discussion, it came up that how are we going to fund it? We didn't know for a fact if we could do it through the nonprofit or not. So when we consulted with an attorney, the attorney said stay away from it. And that's when I wrote a check for $3,000. I have a copy of it. I could show it to you. Okay. Pam and we got caught up in the moment that day. That was a big thing for us in our parent group. Okay. So at my request, she went down there with me. I filed the paperwork with the attorneys. Pam was in the picture with me. Okay. That's essentially the extent of it. Now, whether she supports it or not, she'll answer that question. But the recall petition has my name on it. I paid for it. Okay. I'm going to pay more because they had a 400-page document dump that they threw on us today. So now I have to pay attorneys to go through that entire thing. But that's fine. That's the process, right? So talking about the Concord, lawn, right? So my company's headquarters is a few miles from there. So I've been there several times. And it is a great place to go. And hopefully you got to do the walk around, starting in Boston Commons and doing the walk. Don't recommend you doing the flip-flops, which I did, which was a mistake. But yeah, and it puts patriotism and a spirit inside of you that makes you want to do things like this. And I truly believe that all of us coming together, this is the new Concord Bridge, right? That we have to take a stand here. Now maybe mass for everybody isn't the answer, and maybe mass for none of us isn't the answer. I think there's some common ground in between, right? And we don't advocate for. I'm not saying that if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't, you don't. Right. So, and I've been mischaracterized on that front too. I'm about personal freedom, make a choice, do what you want. If you have your mask on, why do I need mine on? Right. You're protected. If you have the vaccine and I don't, why do you care? You're vaccinated. Right. So, I think we just can be reasonable about this and come together and maybe tone it down a little bit. Right. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Natalie Govin. I think that there's still a lot of people, even as of a few weeks ago, when we had school board meetings and then a private school board meeting where a couple of them met us at the park, where there were still questions about CRT. I think we've all seen all the ridiculous and insane OSPI affirmed and admitted textbooks and books that are allowed in libraries regarding CSE. I think it's out there. I think we've all seen the child pornographic stuff. So that part is clear. And I think that's kind of quieted down. That argument has quieted down, right, in recent months because we've all seen it. CRT is a little unclear. So we even had a school board member question, why is everybody so angry about CRT? We're not teaching CRT. She literally, quote unquote, said, what is CRT anyway? And that's when I about flipped my lid because it's something that our education system was set up about decades and decades and decades ago, really nearly 100 years ago, by Herman Mann. You can look him up, okay? It was based on the Prussian education system that was basically supposed to stupefy students so that they became automatonic and did what people said. Okay, so flash forward to where we are now. It's the information age. It's 2021, nearly 2022. You can learn about and find just about anything in the world that you want to online. So I encourage everybody to look up the history of CRT and look up how it corresponds to equity, inclusion, and diversity. Now, in 3-4 years ago, when I'll say a student, got an article in pertaining to an assignment for class that had anything at all to do with a subtitle of called the New Jim Crow. If my child or anybody else's child is getting paperwork where there's a subtitle or a title or any kind of link to anybody who purports that there is a new Jim Crow, you're teaching CRT. You're teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is, in other words, CRT. I got this article, I saw this article, and it said the new Jim Crow. There are no Jim Crow. Jim Crow were laws on books, and there are no laws on books that discriminate against anybody of any color in this country. Period. End of story. So the principals need to have more quality control. The boards need to have more quality control because they simply don't. They don't. I've been trying to get sugar out of schools. We all know it's 2021. Sugar's bad for the kids. It's bad for us people. Stop it, right? Stop the insanity, like Susan Powers in the 80s, right? Remember her? In the 90s. Stop the insanity. Stop teaching our kids that we have laws on books or, like she said, something systemic, that's systemically teaching our kids that they are better or worse at birth. Systemically. It's just nonsense and it's not true. Thank you.
I just want to add to the comments that she made. The state has passed a bill. They passed it in May, and the bill is SB 5044, and it does say that they think that there's institutional racism in our public schools, and they are planning a curriculum of equity, diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism. So I think my feeling is, as parents, we have to do our work to make sure we understand what this bill can require our school district to do and what it can't. And then we need to figure out, is our conversation with our school district, don't do these parts because you have a choice, and do these parts because you have a choice. Because there are also state laws on the books that school districts can reject controversial curriculum. And so there is some foundation for the school board to stand on, but we have to encourage them to recognize that and to stand up and stand against. I mean, if something is systemic, could it be caused by children? No, they haven't been in the system. If it's systemic, it's by the system, and it's not the children that need to be retrained. And I think we need to get educated, and we need to be firm, civil and firm with our school board that we want them to, do what's necessary to keep out of our schools anything that would suggest that a child's character was based on their ethnicity, because they're not connected. A child's character is his choice or her choice, whereas his ethnicity is something that comes with him at birth.
A little less combative. Their words, not mine. Yeah, so one thing that we don't talk about in these community forums, there's a program out there called LAP. I don't know if everybody's familiar with what LAP is, but I believe it stands for the Learning Assistance Program. So Brett brought up a great point last night when he talked about, the exodus of children, students going to private schools, and when they get to the private schools, they get assessed, and they are so far behind, they don't know how they're going to catch them up. There's a program called LAP that is supposed to be doing that in our schools. But, as my spouse has been elementary teacher for 31 years. She says that in her opinion, based on, the circumstances that we're in now, they're focusing the attention on the wrong people. It's on K through 4 when, when the real assessment should be made in those, let's say, middle school grades and even into high school. How have those kids fallen behind? Those kids are going to need to go to college. So, a recommendation for me, to the citizenry would be, hey, take a look at that, right? And engage the board on that. What is the board and the district doing to kind of even-handedly spread the resources so that every, student, gets that opportunity to catch up? These kids didn't ask for this problem, right? This was, put upon them, put upon us. And, I feel, bad that, hey, does a kindergartner, do they really need like reading assistance? Probably not, right? But, does, some kid in middle school getting ready to go into high school, they might need it more. I'm not saying don't address it at the lower grades. I'm saying find out where the need is, but then reassess it, continuously reassess the problem and throw those resources where they're needed most. And I don't know what they're doing. I'm here, they're not doing a whole lot with it. But anyway, something that people might want to look into.